What if I told you your life has never been random? That every so-called coincidence, the number that keeps appearing, the stranger who says the exact words you needed to hear, the song that plays at the perfect moment has never been chance at all. You pause when it happens, don't you? You stop and wonder, why this, why now? And for a moment, something inside you whispers, pay attention. Because synchronicity is not chaos. It is the coded language of the universe, a language not written in letters but in patterns, not spoken in sound but in timing. And whether you've noticed or not, your life has been in constant dialogue with you. Think of it like this. In quantum physics, a particle doesn't exist in a fixed location until it is observed. Until then, it hovers in a cloud of infinite possibilities. But the moment you look, the moment you notice, reality collapses into form. Now imagine that same principle woven into your everyday life. Your thoughts, your emotions, your subconscious beliefs, they act as the observer. They collapse the infinite possibilities of the quantum field into the experiences you call your life. This is why two people can walk into the same situation and experience two entirely different realities. One person sees rejection, another sees opportunity. Same event, two observers, two realities. And synchronicity? It's the universe showing you the mirror. Every time you notice a pattern, 11:11 on the clock, a feather at your feet, the right call at the right time, it is not by accident. It is reality reflecting your inner frequency back to you. It is proof that you are not moving through a dead mechanical world, but through a living, intelligent field that responds to you. Most people dismiss it. They call it luck or coincidence, but deep down you know better. Because when you trace back the biggest turning points of your life, you'll find synchronicities everywhere, little alignments that nudged you, guided you, led you exactly where you needed to be. That random person you met who became your closest friend. That delay that saved you from being in the wrong place at the wrong time. That whisper of intuition that made no sense until later when everything clicked into place. Here's the truth. Synchronicity is not rare. It is constant. The question is not whether it is happening. The question is, are you awake enough to see it? Because life is always speaking to you. The patterns are already there. The signs have always been on the path. What changes everything is when you begin to notice, to listen, and to trust. This is where your journey begins. Not in chasing signs, but in recognizing that you are already in conversation with the universe. Not in hoping for meaning, but in realizing that meaning has been stitched into every detail of your existence. And the moment you accept this, you step into a new identity, no longer the passive traveler, stumbling into coincidences, but the conscious creator, decoding the hidden pattern beneath your life. You don't see the world as it is, you see the world as you are. At first, that may sound like philosophy, but quantum physics has been whispering this truth for almost a century. In the famous double-slit experiment, light behaves as both a wave of infinite potential and a particle of fixed form. Left unobserved, it spreads into endless probabilities. But the moment an observer steps in, the wave collapses. Reality takes shape, and so does your life. Every morning when you wake, your awareness becomes the measuring device. What you choose to notice multiplies. What you give your attention to solidifies. The rest, like unseen waves, fades back into the background of possibility. Think about it. Two people can walk through the exact same day and live in completely different worlds. One notices only traffic, delays, and reasons to complain. The other notices smiles, opportunities, and patterns of support. Same day, same streets, same events, but two entirely different realities, collapsed through the lens of two different observers. Here's what most people don't realize. Your focus is not passive, it is creative. Every time you dwell on fear, on lack, on failure, you are not simply seeing reality, you are calling it into form. And every time you focus on gratitude, on possibility, on love, you are shifting the field around you into coherence. The quantum responds to the vibration of your attention, sculpting synchronicities to match your inner state. That's why you notice the song lyric that speaks directly to your heart, only when you've been longing for guidance. That's why you spot the opportunity when you've finally decided you're ready for change. The signal has always been there. But it takes the observer, you, to collapse it into form. Think of your attention like a flashlight in a dark room. The room may be filled with countless objects, but only what your beam falls on comes alive to you. Synchronicities are the universe's way of saying, look here, keep looking. But here's the paradox. The more scattered your attention, the more chaotic the patterns. The more coherent your focus, the more the world seems to align with precision. This is why meditation, gratitude, and presence are not just spiritual practices. They are tuning tools. They bring your observer's lens into clarity, so reality can reflect back the order you've chosen to see. The shift begins when you realize you are not merely watching life happen. You are collapsing possibility into form, moment by moment. And the signs you later call synchronicity, they are not random miracles. They are evidence that your awareness has weight, your focus has power, and your perception has been shaping your world all along. So the question is not whether the universe sends you signs. The question is, what am I choosing to observe and therefore create? Your subconscious mind is not silent. It is magnetic. Beneath your conscious thoughts, beyond the chatter of your daily awareness, there exists a deeper compass that pulls you through life. This compass is not made of logic or reason, but of imprints, memories, and emotions that you've carried since childhood. And whether you notice it or not, it is guiding you every single day. Science tells us that up to 95% of your thoughts, reactions, and choices arise from the subconscious. That means most of your life is not directed by conscious decision, but by invisible programming. And here's the truth. Synchronicity is one of the ways your subconscious reveals itself to you. Those repeating numbers, those random encounters, those patterns you can't ignore, they are reflections of your inner world projected outward. Imagine two people walking into the same opportunity. One carries deep subconscious beliefs of worthiness, abundance, and trust. The other carries hidden programs of fear, rejection, and scarcity. The first sees alignment, the second sees obstacles. The opportunity was the same, but their subconscious compass guided them to entirely different interpretations. And those interpretations shaped the reality each one experienced. Your subconscious is like a tuning fork. It vibrates at a frequency shaped by your dominant emotions and beliefs. If it hums with fear, it will attract experiences that confirm danger. If it hums with doubt, it will pull situations that reflect insecurity. But when it hums with love, with gratitude, with faith, you will find the world echoing back with synchronicities that feel like divine orchestration. The outer world mirrors the inner, not as punishment, but as reflection. Think of the times when life seemed to coincide with your inner state. When you were deeply in love, the world seemed to shower you with songs, symbols, and signs of connection. When you were grieving, you noticed reminders of loss everywhere you turned. And when you were determined to change, the right book, mentor, or message appeared as if out of nowhere. It wasn't random, it was resonance. This is why practices like meditation, affirmations, and emotional healing are so powerful. They are not just rituals for relaxation. They are ways of reprogramming your subconscious compass, shifting the vibration of the tuning fork. And as you shift within, synchronicities begin to shift around you. The numbers align, the doors open, the coincidences accelerate, because your subconscious is no longer broadcasting confusion. It is broadcasting coherence. The awakening here is simple yet profound. Synchronicity is not outside of you. It is the echo of your subconscious. The patterns you notice are telling you who you are beneath the surface. They reveal what you still believe, what you still feel, what you still hold on to. And when you learn to read these reflections, you stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what is this showing me about me? The compass has always been there, silently pointing the way. But now, you begin to see that it does not just guide you randomly, it guides you according to your state. And with awareness, you can change the magnet. You can reset the tuning fork. You can align your subconscious compass with the reality you long to create. And when you do, synchronicity is no longer rare. It becomes inevitable. What if your emotions were not private? What if every feeling you carried was not locked inside of you, but broadcast into the very fabric of reality? Because here's the truth, emotion is not just a fleeting sensation. It is energy in motion, a frequency that ripples outward into the quantum field. And the universe, like a living mirror, responds not to what you say you want, but to what you truly feel. Think about it. Your heart is not only a pump, it is an electrical generator. Neuroscience shows that the electromagnetic field of your heart extends several feet beyond your body. When you feel gratitude, awe, or love, this field expands into coherence. It becomes ordered, harmonious, powerful. But when you live in fear, anger, or doubt, the signal collapses into chaos. The field weakens, and so do the synchronicities that surround you. This is why two people can walk through the same circumstance and emerge with two opposite realities. One faces a setback with bitterness, seeing only proof that life is unfair. Another feels curiosity and trust, asking, "What is life showing me?" And almost instantly doors begin to open for them. The difference wasn't in the circumstance. It was in the emotional frequency each one carried. Your emotions act like a tuning dial for your reality. Elevated emotions, gratitude, joy, inspiration, bring you into resonance with possibilities that match their vibration. This is when the right book finds you, the stranger speaks the exact words you needed to hear, or the opportunity arrives at the perfect moment. It feels like magic, but it is resonance. The universe is reflecting your frequency back to you through synchronicity. And yet, most people never realize that their emotions are creative tools. They believe they are victims of how they feel. But what if you could choose? What if you could intentionally cultivate the frequency you wish to live in? Gratitude is not just a nice practice. It is a rewiring of the nervous system, a recalibration of the subconscious, and a broadcast to the quantum field that says, "More of this." Please think of a time when you were deeply grateful. Notice how life seemed to arrange itself differently. You noticed more beauty, more kindness, more flow. It wasn't that the world suddenly changed. It was that your emotional frequency aligned with a new layer of reality. You tuned into it, and it revealed itself. Here lies the awakening. Your emotions are the bridge between the seen and the unseen. They are the translators of possibility into form. And when you learn to elevate them, to live in love before love arrives, to embody abundance before the money comes, to feel gratitude before the blessing is visible, you collapse reality into synchronicities that prove you were aligned all along. So you begin to see. Your task is not to chase signs, but to cultivate the state that makes signs inevitable, not to beg for miracles, but to embody the frequency where miracles are normal. The bridge has always been within you, and the moment you step onto it with elevated emotion, life begins to meet you halfway. What if coincidence was never random? What if every so-called accident, every lucky break, every uncanny alignment was not chance, but the visible fingerprint of an invisible design? This is the paradox most people miss. The very events they dismiss as coincidence are often the most direct evidence that reality is responding to them. What looks like randomness is actually resonance. What appears accidental is often orchestration. Quantum physics reveals that reality exists as probability until observation collapses it into form. At any moment, infinite timelines exist around you. But when you set an intention, when you hold a focus, you tilt the probabilities. You collapse the wave of uncertainty into a sequence of events that carry meaning. This collapse is what you call synchronicity, the alignment of inner intent with outer reality. Think about this. You decide you want to move to a new city. Suddenly, conversations begin to surface about that exact place. A stranger tells you a story about their life there. A job opening appears in your feed that you would have otherwise missed. None of these things were created out of thin air. They were always possibilities. But the moment you aligned your focus, the wave collapsed, and they became visible in your field. This is why the smallest shift in awareness can unlock cascades of meaningful events. A single decision to see yourself as worthy can collapse years of self-doubt into a week of opportunities. A single choice to trust can transform delay into divine timing. It is not the world that changes. It is your observation, your intent, your focus. And reality reorganizes itself in response. Consider two people who both lose their jobs. One sees only disaster, and the days that follow collapse into stress, closed doors, and missed opportunities. The other sees possibility, and suddenly the coincidences begin. A friend calls with a lead, an idea emerges that sparks excitement, a new path opens. The same event, two different lenses, two different collapses of reality. What you once dismissed as chance reveals itself as design when you realize that the universe is not random, it is responsive. It is not throwing dice, it is mirroring your frequency. Every alignment is the collapse of probability into meaning, a reminder that your life is not unfolding by accident, but in dialogue with your consciousness. Here lies the awakening. Synchronicity is not a rare gift reserved for the chosen few. It is the natural result of coherence between thought, emotion, and focus. The more aligned you are, the more frequent and undeniable the coincidences become, and as you witness them, your doubt begins to dissolve. You see that reality is not happening to you, it is happening with you, through you, because of you. Coincidence collapses into synchronicity the moment you stop dismissing the signs and start honoring them as reflections. And once you do, you step into a life where alignment is not the exception, but the rule. What if synchronicity was not rare at all? What if it has been flowing around you constantly, like a river of signals waiting for you to tune in? The truth is, life is not silent. It is broadcasting to you all the time, through symbols, patterns, and perfectly timed alignments. But most of the time you're not listening. Your mind is filled with static, your heart scattered between past regrets and future fears. The signal is always there. The question is, are you tuned to the right frequency? Think of reality as a radio station. Every possible version of your life, every timeline, every opportunity, every miracle exists like a frequency on the dial. Gratitude has its frequency. Abundance has its frequency. Love, clarity, trust, all of them are stations you can tune into. The broadcast is happening whether you notice it or not. But until you align yourself with the right vibration, the music of your desired reality remains faint, drowned in noise. Here's the paradox. Most people think they have to chase synchronicity, as if signs are rewards given by some external force. But alignment is not about chasing, it's about clearing. It's about removing the static of fear, doubt, and distraction so the signal becomes clear. The synchronicities you long for don't appear because the universe suddenly decided to bless you. They appear because you finally tuned into the station that was always playing. Imagine this. Two people walk into a crowded room. One is filled with anxiety, scanning for rejection, and that is exactly what they notice. The cold glance, the dismissive tone, the imagined judgment. The other enters with openness and trust, and instantly they notice the warm smile, the outstretched hand, the conversation that blossoms into opportunity. The same room, the same people, but two completely different signals. Each one aligned to their inner state, and reality reflected it back without fail. This is where quantum science meets spiritual practice. The observer effect shows us that attention collapses potential into form. But emotion, the frequency of your heart, is what decides which form you collapse. When you embody coherence, when your mind and heart are aligned in thought and feeling, you resonate with a different layer of reality. You step into the broadcast where synchronicity is normal, where guidance is constant, where life feels like it is speaking directly to you. Here's the awakening. Synchronicity has never been about the universe giving you signs. It has always been about you aligning with the signal that was already there. And the dial is in your hands. Through gratitude, through presence, through elevated emotion, you clear the static and tune yourself into the reality you desire. The moment you align with the signal, the coincidences multiply. The timing becomes uncanny, the path lights up in front of you, and you realize you were never waiting for the universe. The universe was waiting for you. What if the universe has been speaking to you all along, just not in words you were taught to understand? The truth is, synchronicities rarely shout. They whisper. They arrive as numbers on a clock, as a song on the radio, as a feather at your feet when you're lost in thought. They speak in patterns, in symbols, in archetypes that bypass the logic of your mind and go straight to the language of your soul. The rational mind wants everything explained, categorized, and proven. But the field of consciousness does not speak in linear sentences. It speaks in metaphor. Just as a dream reveals its meaning not through facts, but through images, synchronicity communicates in the same way. A repeating number like 1111. A song from your childhood playing at the exact moment you were questioning your path. A stranger's words echoing the thought you just had seconds before. These are not accidents. They are alignments, messengers of coherence, reminders that you are in conversation with something greater than yourself. Think of it this way: when you read a poem, you don't demand it to give you logical proof of its meaning. You feel it. You allow the rhythm, the imagery, the metaphor to open something inside you. Synchronicities are living poems, written by the quantum field, designed to awaken you to your connection with the unseen. Here's a simple example. Two people see the same repeating number. One shrugs it off as coincidence. The other pauses, breathes, and asks, "What is this moment asking me to notice?" The number itself is neutral. The meaning is not in the digits, it is in the dialogue between your awareness and the field. Your openness decides whether it is just another second on the clock or a doorway into deeper alignment. Quantum science tells us that reality is not fixed. It is probabilistic, shifting, alive. The observer effect reminds us that consciousness shapes what collapses into form, and symbols are how the field answers back. They are mirrors, reflecting your state of being, your thoughts, your desires. They are breadcrumbs leading you home to yourself. But here's the paradox. The moment you obsessively chase symbols, you lose them. Because they are not meant to be hunted, they are meant to be received. A symbol is not a puzzle to be solved. It is an invitation to trust. It doesn't demand certainty, it asks for presence. This is your awakening. Synchronicity speaks the language of symbols because the soul speaks in symbols. The more you trust your inner knowing, the more fluent you become. You stop dismissing, you start listening. You stop analyzing, you start receiving. And life itself becomes a dialogue between you and the field, between your heart and the infinite. The universe has always been speaking. Now you are finally learning how to listen. What if the very control you cling to is the same force keeping you from the life you long for? You were taught that effort creates results, that planning prevents chaos, that control is safety. But synchronicity does not live inside control. It lives inside surrender. It emerges when you loosen your grip, when you allow the invisible thread of intelligence weaving through reality to guide you. This is the paradox. The more you try to force life into your design, the smaller your world becomes. But the moment you trust, the moment you step back and allow space for the unknown, life expands beyond what you could have ever scripted. Quantum physics gives us a clue. In the double slit experiment, a particle behaves like a wave, an infinite field of possibilities, until it is observed, until the mind demands a single outcome. Control collapses the field too soon. But trust allows the wave to move, to flow, to carry you to outcomes you couldn't have predicted. The field is intelligent, but it requires your willingness to surrender the need to know how. Think of the last time life surprised you. Perhaps you met a friend by accident in a place you almost didn't go. Perhaps a rejection you feared became the very redirection that opened your greatest opportunity. In hindsight, you can trace the thread, how one event, one delay, one detour aligned perfectly with the next. But in the moment, all you saw was disappointment, uncertainty, or loss. Here's the truth. You can only see the thread looking back, but you can only walk it by trusting forward. Two people lose their job on the same day. One falls into despair, believing life has abandoned them. The other, though afraid, whispers, "Maybe this is a doorway I couldn't walk through otherwise." 6 months later, one is still stuck in fear. The other has created a career more aligned with their passion than ever before. The same event, two different responses. Control versus trust. Synchronicity flows when you stop trying to force outcomes and begin to partner with reality. This doesn't mean you abandon intention. Intention is the signal you send out, the frequency that tells the field what you are open to receiving. But once you set it, you must release it. You must allow the thread to weave itself without tugging it from your fear of being lost. This is the art of co-creation. You hold the vision, but you trust the thread. You plant the seed, but you surrender the season. You walk with faith that every encounter, every delay, every detour is not an interruption, but an orchestration. And slowly, you begin to notice the people who appear at just the right time, the message that arrives when you need it most, the opportunity hidden in what first felt like rejection. You realize you are never walking alone. The thread has always been guiding you. Here is your shift. Surrender is not weakness. It is strength. It is the courage to release your limited design in exchange for a greater one. The more you trust, the more reality floods your path with synchronicities, weaving you into the story you were always meant to live. You are not falling. You are being carried. Trust the thread. What if the very signs you've been chasing were never outside of you, but always within you? You have spent so much of your life waiting for numbers on clocks, for songs on the radio, for signs that the universe has heard you. But here is the awakening. You were never meant to spend eternity searching for synchronicity. You were meant to become it. Because when you embody alignment, reality stops whispering in riddles. It begins to echo your very state of being. The world doesn't respond to what you say you want. It responds to who you are. This is not philosophy alone. It is physics. Every emotion you carry radiates a measurable frequency. Gratitude creates coherence in the heart, which synchronizes the brain into clarity. Fear creates chaos, scattering the signal you are sending out into the quantum field. When your heart and mind move as one, you no longer wait for confirmation, you become confirmation. Think of a radio tower. It does not beg for a signal. It does not search for frequencies. It is the source of transmission. The moment you step into coherence, you stop looking for signs of alignment and begin emanating the very frequency that shapes reality. Imagine two people walking into a room. One carries tension, worry, and resentment. The air feels heavy, conversations falter, and even strangers sense discomfort without knowing why. The other enters with calm presence, heart open, mind clear. The room shifts. People breathe easier. Smiles emerge. Nothing was spoken, yet everything was altered. Why? Because one became the signal. This is the secret mystics have always whispered, the truth science now confirms. Reality bends around coherence. The double slit experiment shows that observation collapses possibility into form. But what if your entire state of being, the thoughts you choose, the emotions you cultivate, is the observation? What if you are the very consciousness that shapes the outcome? The mirror no longer lies. Life reflects not what you demand, but what you radiate. And so, the work is no longer chasing signs, but cultivating coherence within. When you live in gratitude, you attract moments that affirm gratitude. When you embody abundance, you no longer look for wealth. You magnetize opportunities without effort. Joe Dispenza calls it living as if. Not pretending, not faking, but stepping into the identity of the one who already is. When you shift identity, you shift the signal. And when you shift the signal, the field responds. Not tomorrow, not someday, but now. Here is your final shift. Synchronicity is not proof that life is listening. Synchronicity is proof that you have become aligned enough to hear what was always being spoken. You are not waiting for a miracle. You are the miracle. You are not decoding reality. You are writing it. You are not searching for the signal. You are the signal. And when you awaken to this truth, everything changes. Life is no longer something happening to you. It is happening through you. You are the observer. You are the frequency. You are the signal. And reality cannot help but answer.